My name is Frank Vakovsky, and I'm a cop. I was working on a case where I was trying to find a connection between this guy, Stefan Molyneux, and this man, Don Trompioni, the New York big shot who was involved in a lot of crooked deals and who at one time ran a chain of casinos. But let me give you some backstory. First of all, this guy, who was responsible for a huge fuck-up in the Middle East, which led to the demise of this guy, who thought he was going to be measured up for a new suit, to this guy, who basically got in with the wrong crowd. Then there was this guy, and another guy came along, then a whole bunch of guys came along, and when this new version of Sonny and Cher's big hit got released, it all went tits up. And before you knew it, everybody wanted to get out of this shithole called the Middle East. But Trompioni didn't want any of these people walking into his patch. But things then started to get real messy regarding possible connections with foreign mobsters. So Trompioni needed people to protect him, and that was my mission, to find out who these people were. So the first thing I did was check out Molyneux's home in Canada, the place where he operated from, and wow, that was some creepy-looking joint. And up there behind that window is the room where he did his daily broadcasts on YouTube. He was basically a performance artist who liked dressing up, and he did a kind of light entertainment show masquerading as a so-called philosophy channel. But I had a hunch it was all just a cover, and the real purpose of his broadcasts was to promote and protect Trompioni and assist him in his fight with the Muslim mobster Mohammed Dabadi, who was trying to move in on Trompioni's action. Now, I couldn't find evidence of them actually communicating with each other directly, but it did look like they devised a series of hand signals and facial expressions that could be construed as a kind of secret code. Now, I learned that he had two main accomplices, Alex the Pig Jones and Paul the Snake Watson. Watson's main job was to reinforce Trompioni's fight against Dabadi's mob in the UK, and Jones's job was to combat the influx of brown people he believed were coming from outer space, who would then plant their eggs into the brains of white people.
I know who the enemy is, and let me tell you, they are vicious wolves who hate you and your family.
But unknown to both of them, Molyneux was trying to get Trompioni to get rid of them, because he reckoned that with his more superior brain, he could do a much better job without them. Of course, the deal was that his cut of the action would be trebled. So, after checking out where he operated, I got a call from the station telling me to get back as soon as possible. Some dame seemingly wanted to talk to me.
Oh, Frank. Looks pretty bad.
Her name? Christina Molyneux. Yeah, Molyneux's wife. She looked like a scared rabbit in the headlights as I walked into my office, and she poured out her fear that her husband could be suicidal due to the many attacks he's been getting recently on YouTube. And she firmly believed these attacks were being coordinated by a Trompioni rival. She went on to tell me that the week before, she needed to call her probation officer, but when she put the phone to her ear, this is what she heard.
I don't want to say it. Maybe the time for arguments is past. Maybe this battle has moved beyond words. Perhaps my job is over. There are no more arguments. I am done.
Pretty scary stuff, huh? Well, I did some checking, and I found out that he wasn't suicidal after all. He was actually in conversation with his business partner, a guy called Mike DeMarco. And basically it turns out that Molyneux was just reading out a script for a show he was going to do the following day. And I learned that he used DeMarco as a kind of sounding board, you know, to let him know if his fake emotions are convincing enough to fool his followers into feeling sorry for him. And it worked, because look at some of the comments he got. Please don't give up, Steph. Only you can save us. If it helps, I could double my monthly donation. And Steph, I'm literally crying here. The world needs you now. P.S. Don't shave off you beard. You look sexy with it. And if you go, they'll bring back that fucking Islamicist-loving pedo Barack Obama. Yeah, stuff like that. But with the suicide thing out the way, she did say that he was definitely depressed. And the main reason was probably due to the amount of YouTube channels out there that were destroying his arguments on a daily basis. Now I started to wonder of who could be behind all this, because I've got a nose for this kind of stuff. And one guy that came to mind was George Soros. Yeah, the man who wanted to take over the world and destroy the only man who claimed he could save the world. Now, Molyneux's news channel was proving to be anything but the truth, and it wasn't long before activists were exposing this to the public. So I checked out some of these online attacks, and boy, there were many, including this one that exposed a lot of Molyneux's contradictions and actually forced him into giving a public apology entitled, "Why I Was Wrong and Pissed Off When I Contradicted My Own Contradictions." Yes, really. And here's another channel that seemingly has a lot of historical shit on Molyneux. And there are new ones coming online every day, like this new kid on the block who portrays Molyneux as some kind of psychopath.
It's done!
Wow. I started to get a clearer picture when a colleague at the office showed me a Twitter post put up by Molyneux, suggesting that Barack Obama would like to have sex with his dog. But the following day, Barack Obama fired this one back at him. An image showing Molyneux in his home surrounded by 4 young adults, 3 males and 1 female, and indicating that something untoward could be going on, and suggesting that maybe Molyneux was at an early stage of undress. And it also asked the question of why Mrs. Molyneux was not in the photograph, and hinting that maybe she was entertaining a young male guest in another room. So I called her up to ask her about it, and she assured me that there was nothing going on that evening. And the reason she wasn't in the photograph was because she was in the kitchen preparing the food. But it occurred to me that Molyneux was a guy who had, metaphorically speaking, had laid out a lot of landmines throughout his life, and obviously didn't realize that one day he'd have to walk over the same ground where he planted those landmines. For example, I found this one.
If I take the worst elements of any group and then somehow extrapolate it to that group as a whole, well, that's unjust and unfair. Take Islamic terrorists and say that's somehow Islam as a whole. Ooh, that's horrible and unfair. And true, it is unfair.
But after researching his older videos, I found this.
Well, Steph, by God, we can't judge Muslims as a group. Well, you gotta judge people as individuals, and even if some individuals are doing bad things, you can't possibly judge the whole group. For God's sakes, do not even think of coming to me and telling me it's evil to judge people collectively.
And here's another where he tells parents not to let their kids go on YouTube because they could become victims of abuse.
Don't let your kids have YouTube channels.
And this one where he swears to protect his daughter.
And they're gonna try and get at my daughter, and no, keep her away from you, thieves of love.
And once again, after some investigation, I found evidence of him exposing his daughter to the public. And as you will see here, it could have all gone horribly wrong. If you got a problem and you don't know where to go, hey, pick up the phone. Call the Isabella Molyneux Show. Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to ask, this is something my daughter can talk about. Cole, his name is. Cole. Now, Cole says that he is in school.
How old is he?
How old are you?
I'm 14.
So Cole is, he's got a problem. And the problem is this, that there's people in his school who are not good at philosophy. So do you think that he should debate with people who are bad at philosophy?
No.
Why not?
I think they won't be good at it. And they will say, no, my choice is right.
What did they say to you, Cole, about the government?
No, you misunderstand. I didn't say my teachers were not good at philosophy. My teacher said that you were no good at philosophy. As a matter of fact, they said you were shit at philosophy.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So I met up with an old friend of mine who's a neurologist, and he found out that Molyneux had a very unusual condition. He explained that in a normal brain, there is what is called the brachius connectus, which is a component that joins the two halves together. But Molyneux is one of those very rare people who don't have that vital part, which means in effect that he has 2 brains, which can be problematic, because one day he would promote this story as truth, And the next day,
always look on the bright side of...
It's all superstitious nonsense. Sigmund Freud was apparently the person who discovered this phenomenon. Brenius disconnectus is sometimes known as flip-flop syndrome. For example, let's say someone said this.
I can't. I mean, I have to break up the movies because I'm tired of paying for those hell-bent on destroying it and me.
It is quite probable that same person could say this some weeks later.
I think it's going to be worth your while. I did go and see the new Star Wars.
And there you have it, the complete flip-flop. Now I got a tip-off from my counterparts in Canada that a man fitting Molyneux's description was seen posting envelopes through the doors of over 500 houses. And those envelopes contained a bunch of photographs depicting the results of what he called breeding with Muslims. And I was in no doubt that this childish behavior was the work of Stefan Molyneux. The thing is, a lot of Canadians were sympathetic to the plight of Muslims fleeing the evil of Tabati's gang, and actually got on really well with them, and soon realized they were no different to us and just wanted to live normal lives like we do.
I am feeling so happy and so lucky to meet you all, and I thank for school and for everyone who helped us.
And this very successful Canadian businessman here decided to help them and paid out over $1.5 million to bring these people over to Canada. He gave them jobs, provided clothing and homes, arranged English lessons, and basically showed them some real human compassion.
They're so happy to see me, and it's like, why is that? Because they feel safe.
He was praised by many, but Trumpioni wasn't pleased with this situation and ordered Molyneux to come up with real negative stuff regarding immigrants in Canada. But sadly, all he could come up with was one guy who was caught, well, I'll let Molyneux tell you.
He was caught masturbating in the shower area of the Windsor International Aquatic and Training Center.
Yep, not exactly a world-shattering scoop. Sometime after that, Trumpioni was in big trouble about retweeting a video that was made by a British nationalist group called Britain First. And he wanted Molyneux to come up with something to get him off the hook. But that put Molyneux in a very difficult position. But the truth was he couldn't possibly defend him on that particular story because he knew that Trump had been a complete dickhead in putting up that video. And he didn't want to offend his good friend Tommy Robinson, who promotes Britain First, an organization that Molyneux has never condemned. And much to Trumpioni's anger, he ran with this story.
So yes, I'm going to keep pounding the drum called Venezuela because
he was in deep shit. And he was, when Trump gave the final secret gesture. And Molyneux knew that when Trump gave him the finger, his ass was out the door. A week later, I got a break. My contacts informed me that Molyneux was actually being blackmailed by George Soros, which proved my suspicions were correct. It seems that when he spent some time in a mental health facility after punching a woman in the face, he wrote a bunch of songs about evil women. And as soon as he was released, he recorded an album of these songs entitled The Vile Vagina. Fortunately, at that time, his wife Christina talked him out of it, and subsequently all the albums were destroyed. And on the burning of the last one, he actually destroyed the record deck too. However, it turned out that George Soros had somehow managed to get his hands on the master disc, and if he didn't hand over $500 million, he would release it to the public. So in desperation, Molyneux called a secret meeting of his henchmen, and I got a tip-off that it would take place here, a place where Joseph the Snake Watson once worked as a cleaner, and he too attended that meeting along with Alex the Pig Jones. But what Molyneux didn't know was that they'd both been tipped off that Molyneux was trying to get rid of them, and they were intent on having a showdown. So we got in quick and wired the place, and we got it all on tape. So how much money is he asking for?
Yeah, how much? Yeah.
500 million.
500 million?
What? So you're gonna tell us who he is, Steph?
Yeah. George Soros.
George Soros?
Jesus.
So that is where the enemy, so to speak, is. I want to know where you are in this now.
Well, come on.
And I need your help.
Oh, Steph, I don't have that kind of money. Me too.
I went all in. George Soros is going all in. You have to respect that.
Well, I wish you all the best, Steph. Let's hear it for Steph. Yeah. Whoa.
Cheering helps, and cheering, in this case, takes the form of support, and support takes the form
Listen,
of...
Steph, you've made a heck of a lot of money. You can afford to pay that.
I gave up a 15-year career and something I'd been working on off and on.
Give me a break.
Ooh.
He's a hypocritical sack of shit whose entire man of the people persona is a complete fraud.
Oh, come on, Paul.
Total bullshit. Because mommy didn't shower them with enough love.
Now, come on, Paul. That's pretty cruel.
So I grew up without a father, and...
Oh, quit with all the sentimental crap. Hey, Joe, let the guy fucking talk, right?
I feel very strongly about this, and I hope and wish with all of my heart.
You and George Soros, I look back and found stuff he said 10 years ago. It's like you saved humanity, or you crossed the Bering Strait. Oh my gosh, you're so accomplished. Wow.
Because I have the truth.
It doesn't work on me.
So it was obvious the meeting had ended, but no one came out. So we decided to go in and make our arrests, but when we got inside, the place was empty. We then discovered they'd used a sewage pipe to get in and out. We tried to catch up with them, but they were long gone. The following day, we visited Molyneux's home, but it was empty. We heard later that Molyneux had left to go and live in Spain with Mike DeMarco, a resort that welcomed men of a certain persuasion. But George Soros remained true to his word, and he finally released that album, The Vile Vagina. And I'd like to play a track to you right now. But before I do, I'd like to give you a warning. If you've got kids in the room, I would get them out now. It's not very, well, I'll let Steph explain it.
As parents, you need to monitor what your children are exposed to. Like, I'm sorry, it's just the way that it is.
Well, let's listen to The Way That It Is.
Women who choose the assholes will fucking end this race.
They'll fucking end this race.
If we don't start holding them fucking accountable.
Fucking accountable.
Women who choose assholes guarantee child abuse.
Yes, they do.
Women who choose assholes guarantee criminality.
Yeah.
Sociopathy.
That's right.
Politicians. All the cold-hearted jerks who run the world came out of the vaginas of women who married assholes. And I don't know how to make the world a better place without holding women accountable for choosing assholes.
What about my dad?
Your dad was an asshole because your mother chose him. Women keep that black bastard flame alive. They cup their hands around it. They protect it with their bodies. They keep the evil of the species going by continually choosing these guys. If women chose nice guys over assholes, we would have a glorious and peaceful world in one generation. Women determine the personality traits of the men because women choose who to have sex with and who to have children with and who to expose those children to.
It's not my daddy's fault.
Your dad is who he is fundamentally because your mother was willing to fuck him and have you. Willing and eager to fuck the monster. Keep fucking monsters, we get catastrophes. We get war, we get nuclear weapons, we get national debts, we get incarcerations and prison guards and all the other florid assholes who rule the world. Women worship at the feet of the devil and wonder why the world is evil. And then, you know what they say? We're victims. Poor us. And some women are, absolutely. But dear God in heaven, men will become whatever women want them to become. Because women are the gatekeepers. Men will become whatever women want them to become. So I think that if you accept that women are central to the cycle of evil in the world, then you will be able to see how it really reproduces. Evil is of matriarchal lineage. In the present, I'm not talking the Mongol horde and rapes and blah, blah, blah.
Evil passes through the mother. Once you see that, you will start to feel safe. Because you will actually have identified not the only danger, but the great unspoken danger in the world, which is the matriarchal lineage of corruption. Women are responsible for the creation of families because men ask women out, men make the proposals, and women say yes or fucking no. That's their entire job. Yes or no. Put some false eyelashes on, push your tits up, and say yes or no. That's the fucking job. Yes or no. And that's the foundation of just about everything that goes on in the world, is the woman saying yes or no. You know, and women, you know, every time I talk about women's responsibility for who they fuck and who they have children with, women are all like, it takes two to tango. Here's a down payment on your pussy. The man goes on his knees, begging the woman. And the woman gets to say, yes or no. Yes or no. That's the whole job. Yes or no. That's it. And if you say yes to an asshole, you are an asshole. I don't even know how to put it any clearer than that. There are people out there who hate your speech. There are people out there who hate my speech. Free speech is the only thing